Is the parasha that concludes Sefer Bereshit and starts with the words Vayechi Yaakov be'eretz Mitzrayim 17 shana. Yaakov lived in Egypt for 17 years. However, that's where we lose in the translation. We lose the actual content of what it means. I'll show you in a second. Yaakov is about to die, and he calls his sons to really give him a blessing and to tell him what's going to happen at the end of time, when it's going to be, and what will happen during this time. And the Zohar explains that not for nothing that the prophecy was given in Egypt. And the Zohar explains that the level of prophecy that expanded into Moshe Rabbeinu, and we know it, that Moshe Rabbeinu got it, and we know the level that it was at, because it says of the pasuk, which we spoke about it yesterday, Velo yiraeni ha'adam b'chai. By the way, Baruch Rofeh Cholim, saying you. And by the way, this shiur is the refuah shlema of Chana Aliza Bat Shendel Nechama and Chaim Israel Halevi Ben Batya. It says, V'lo yiraeni Adam v'chai, a person should not see me, but pay attention to the word v'chai. So you see, Yechi, v'chai is the same thing. And that level, or the potential of prophecy, existed only in these two people, Yaakov, according to the Zohar, and Yaakov, and in Moshe Rabbeinu. The rest of the prophets, throughout history, were on a lower level than these two particular individuals. And we know, mainly based on the Zohar, what the Ari explains, that a person has an ability to reach 5 different levels of awareness. And that's without taking mushrooms and DMTs, whatever you call those things, and so on and so forth. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechidah. The level of Nefesh is the level that most people, hover around and exist around. And that level represents all your desires and physical needs that the body and its senses exist and need and provide us, sensory issues and so on and so forth. But that level is divided into 2 sections. The first one is called Nefesh Be'emit, which is the will to exist, and that's eating, drinking, and multiplying, and the will to live. And there is what is so-called Nefesh Sichlit, the logic part of your soul that really comes to seeks logic purpose or logic solutions that operates through what we call logica, and whether it's curiosity and whether it is hunger for information, I want to know more, and so on and so forth. But the more you develop spiritually, the more you go from one level to the other, and there are steps. You can't go just zoom yourself out from nefesh all the way to neshama. You have to go in steps. It's just like anything else. Look at this as a building that has 5 floors, but no elevator. So at every floor, when you reach the floor, there is a certain step area which is flat. And then you want to go up to the next level, you go up to this level. And that's exactly what happens. But the word Yechi represents the 4th floor, the 4th level, which is the level of prophecy, and which is extremely high and difficult to get. From that, we go to the last level, which is the madrega of Yechidah. A very, very high level to reach, which is the highest and the highest level of spirituality a human could attain. That level, in order to make it fair, Because if you're going to tell me it's so high, so there's no point of me even to try because I'm never going to reach it. However, there was a point in history in which we reached that level. We reached that level in the event of Har Sinai, giving the Torah in Sinai. So why was this whole prophecy with such an importance was necessarily to be given in Egypt? So Yaakov went to Egypt because he knew that he has to prepare something. He has to prepare the ground for the future generations and to prepare them to what we call collection of the sparks that were lost, of the spiritual sparks that were lost throughout the years, to be able to collect them, to put them all together. And these are the holy spark, what we call in Kabbalah Nitzatzot HaKadosha, the holy sparks. And they went to the most filthy place in terms of morality in the world at the time, which was Egypt. And there is a tremendous lesson for that as well. Egypt was referred to as Kura Barzel. Kura Barzel is the smelting pot, iron smelting pot. You know, when you smelt iron, it's smelly, it's dirty, it's hot, it's uncomfortable. When you take ore and you actually turn it into metal, it's a very difficult place to be. Egypt was like that, but not in terms of the pyramids and the beauty, in terms of morality. Morality. In a way, Am Yisrael went to the Galut for that reason as well. The Tosfot in Yevamot, in Masechet Yevamot, explains that one of the reasons that Am Yisrael went to exile throughout the world is to bring about the Nitzotzot Kedusha, the holy sparks that got mixed up within the nations of the world. So by the presence of Jews there, we retrieve, it's like a magnet, we're trying to retrieve those souls out to put them together into the body, and then by doing so bring into the place of Tikkun Olam, fixing the world and bringing the world that it was to be. In other words, something had happened afterwards that it wasn't complete the job. But that's what Yaakov Avinu went for. And the whole time for us to stay in Egypt, that we stay there, was to fix, to purify those souls that were not fixed in Dora Mabul. The neshamot of Dora Mabul were high neshamot, but they weren't fixed. That's why there is a hint for that when we say in the pasuk, Kol haben hayelod, Kol haben, every male boy that is born, hayeora tashlichus, throw him to the river. That's what Paro said to Bnei Israel. And in Dora Aflaga it says, לכן הבה נלבנה לבנים, אל תקרא לבנים, אלא בנים. Okay, we need to מלבן. מה זה מלבן? To make them white. למה it's called ללבן לבנים? It's to make לבנים, to make bricks. ללבן means you need to heat them up. So the same concept applies there, applies here as well. So therefore, for about 400 years, through tremendous, and the emphasis is on the suffering and the misery in which they had to go through, and they had to go through, Am Yisrael was formed up to the point that it was, ready to take him out of Egypt. I'll give you an example. When you make pottery, which pottery is a wonderful thing to do, and if you make, you already form the pottery. You basically, what's clay? Clay is it's dirt. It has certain particles in it. It's dirt. You take the dirt, you sift it, you form it into a clay. You take the clay, you form the vessel. From the vessel, after you form it and you make it nice, you let it dry. Then you put it in the kiln. It needs to get very hot. And then you take it out, and then you have a nice vessel that you can actually use. If you take it out beforehand, it's not going to do it. The vessel is going to break. It's not going to be a vessel. Am Yisrael needed to go to Mitzrayim to stay there for all this time, to suffer the intense, call it misery, but I call it, let's say, heat, in order to make Am Yisrael to a vessel of Kedusha, a vessel that can hold within itself holiness. Shene'emar, because it says, Goy Kadosh u'mamlechet Kohanim. So in order to be Goy Kadosh, what do you mean Goy Kadosh? You were born holy? You're not born holy. You make yourself holy. You need to hold the holiness within you, and you need to make sure that your vessel is appropriate to hold that holiness, the Kedusha. So they had to stay in that kiln of Egypt to actually form, so there will be a vessel that actually holds, that's not leaking or cracked or anything of that sort. It's very important to understand that. Because all of this has to do with us. All of this has to do with us. I forgot who said that, but I really did. I'm not sure so. But you should, in a way, run away from seeking comfort to seeking, you should really seek discomfort. I don't know if it was David Goggins or Jocko Willings or one of these guys, which are really like amazing people. But, you have to understand that. If you're going to be a fighter, if you're going to be a person that is able to defend and to fight for noble ideas, you need to suffer. You need to go through some grueling, intense training. Nobody's going to give you like a foot massage when you're done, doing whatever it is, and like, I don't know, a person with 3 legs is going to give you a massage on your back once you lifted the log, it's not going to happen. It has to be hard. It has to be difficult, and you become tough. Take a sword, when you make a Japanese sword, through the hammer. When you hammer it and you put it into hot oven, or the iron, the kiln, you pull it out and it's white and you bang on it and the sparks are flying out. What are you doing? You're separating the imperfections from the metal until you get this beautiful thing that's called a Japanese sword. The sparks that you see are imperfections that come out of the steel. You need to do it. Otherwise, you can have a nice sword. You can buy a sword for like $50 in some store in Chinatown. You're going to try to chop something with it. It's going to fly. It's going to break into, I don't know how many parts. It needs to be perfect, flawless, without any internal, or fractures. Or it needs to be perfect, and that could come only through intense work. You want to be good? Well, don't seek comfort. Don't sit down to sit there to kick your feet and just get fat while you think you're doing something. You're actually hurting yourself. You want to be healthy? Exercise. Exercise means suffering. As Jonathan says, exercise is stress, but that's good stress. Going to do cold plunges into ice water, make you healthy. But if you want to get up in the morning, put your feet into like fur slippers and drink your cocoa, and every day you're growing about a pound, that's not good for you, man. You're not going to be able to deal with what life, and you don't know what life is having ahead of you. You don't know what's waiting for you around the corner. You don't know. Then you better practice. You better work hard. That extra 5 minutes of sleep is what's going to make you fail. You set your time to get up in the morning, get up in the morning. 5 minutes of sleep, that's your enemy. That's your devil. Why do you think it's so hard to get up in the morning on time, early? Early. Why it's so hard? Because that's what you need to do.
Coming out of comfort.
Coming out of your comfort. That's hard to do. But that's what needed to be done. That's why we had to stay in Mitzrayim. And if you look at it this way, Am Yisrael was formed through this hardship and was brought to a level that he could receive the Torah in Mount Sinai. And throughout thousands of years of the existence of Am Yisrael, the Jew and the Jewish nation always were able to come out stronger and to make the best out of any situation that came their way, even if it was very harsh and an unbelievable situation in terms of the difficulty. After slavery of Egypt, we reached the level of Har Sinai. After the destruction of the first temple and going into exile, we happened the miracle of Purim. We had Megillat Esther. As a result of that, we had the second temple. By the way, anybody knows where the temple was built, the Jewish temple?
Jerusalem.
What? Well, in Jerusalem. You know where? In the Temple Mount. Yes, guys, in the Temple Mount. Tell this to the morons in the State Department. In the Temple Mount. And after the destruction and the very difficult exile that came after that of the second temple, hey, look what we got. We wrote the Mishnah. We wrote the Zohar. The Gemara was compliant. It's just amazing. Talking about the exile of Spain. When was the exile of Spain took place?
1492.
What Hebrew date? Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, 1492. Yes. And what that caused? That caused to the expansion of Torah and to the golden era of Torah in terms of Kabbalah in Tzfat, in other places in the world like never before. If it wasn't for the expansion of Spain, we would not have the Shulchan Aruch. I mean, can you imagine your life without the Shulchan Aruch? Our time, after the pogroms in Russia, the Chalutzim came, those secular Jews, they came to Israel. After the Holocaust, we still experiencing the result of this great flourishing of the Holocaust that came as a result of that, able to pick it up. So we are in a similar era right now of flourishing, but we're also in a similar era of darkness. Everything is kind of a cycle, so we are up and now we are on a decline down. It's very similar to what was in Mitzrayim. Do I need to tell you what happened in Mitzrayim? You all know what happened in Mitzrayim. Well, the same thing is happening here and everything else. And maybe in a way, we are actually in a worse place than we were before. And what do I mean? Throughout all these years, we had what we call Gdolei Ummah, the great sages and great leaders of our nation, that were not only greatness in their leadership, but it also is that the people, the Jewish people, were willing to accept that leadership and whatever they say upon them, and that's why they were able to pull through. That's why they were able to pull through. Today, with making everything political, and sometimes even the Torah world becomes political. Actually, not sometimes. Even now, the Torah world becomes political. We have to be very, very careful. Who do we choose and accept as our leaders? Now, I don't care if you learn in Ponovich or you learn in whatever yeshiva. If you are a politician, you're a politician. You're not a Ben Torah. You're a politician to dress up a certain way. Because ultimately, all politicians are not leaders. Politicians are there for themselves. That's why politics and pop is almost the same thing. It's all about being popular. So we have to be very, very careful. Today, every chassid becomes an admor. Every admor is kadosh. Every rabbi becomes maran. Kulam maranim hayom. Maran. Eze maran. For me, there's only one maran, Bet Yosef. So that's why you have to be very, very careful. So how do we do this? How do we deal with this? How do we simplify it? So on a global or on a national spectrum, it's very difficult because, I don't know anything about politics. I'm not a politician. It's very, and that's why, for example, the whole concept of making, Trump into a president, it was a very interesting thing, as Condoleezza Rice said, because it's the first time that a person that never had a public position before went in from his first position, became president of the United States. It's very refreshing. I'm talking about the idea, not about the actual person, but the idea. But how do I do it? So let's try to make it smaller, and let's look at a company. And let's say, for example, I need to pick up a leader for a company. I mean, that's more tangible for me because I can understand companies. It's much smaller. But you should know there's no difference in what I'm going to tell you now, picking up a leader or a person to lead your company, to lead the nation, or to lead your home, or what you need to be. So, and that has to do with a parasha. So, first of all, you need tremendous investment. You need a lot of resources and effort to find the right person. And even in cases like this, it's very, very easy to surrender to those forces that push you to to apply only the how should I call it, the professional aspect on it, and not the personal aspect of the person. In other words, pick up a person that knows a lot and so on and so forth, and he has proven track record, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? You know, you could say, okay, maybe that's usually what most people do, but it's not really enough. To know and to have on paper a good track record is not enough. For me, it could be a person that goes from one place to another, one place to another. It's like they say, a new broom sweeps well. You know, so he comes in a year or two, does what he does, and then moves somewhere else. I don't want somebody like that. I don't want somebody like this. Because today he wants something, I want something else. My company is not going to be able to grow like this. So how do I deal with this? What do I actually do? So here comes Parashat Shavua and tells us about the brachot of Yaakov. Yaakov, that Am Yisrael is called after, right, to his 12 sons. So through those brachot, if you pay attention and you look at what he says, he really gives the specific characteristic and the specific job of every tribe based on the character and based on their spiritual abilities, which is fascinating. And it's fascinating because Yaakov, that with all his power, tried to buy the firstborn rights from his brother Esav, here comes and takes Reuven, does the same thing in a way that he did to Esav, he does to Reuven. Reuven was the Bechor. He was born first. So why are you taking the job of being the leader from Reuven? He should have been the king. He should have been the leader of the people. And that's, of course, that Yaakov also, before that, gives a tremendous title to Reuven. He says, Kochi vereshit oni. He is my power. He is my strength. He is my initial strength that came to this world. It's a tremendous compliment from Yaakov coming to Reuven. And yet you don't make him to be a king? I mean, man, what's wrong with you? He calls him Yeter Se'et veYeter Oz. He has a lot of power and might. But then Yaakov criticizes him. It says, Al ki kepachaz kamayim. He's slippery as water. He maneuvers a lot. He jumps. He's very quick. In other words, the Baal HaKedah, Rabbi Yitzchak Arama, says that Reuven carries within himself the quality of being too hasty. He's too hasty, too quick. He's too quick. And even if his quickness and his hastiness is much more refined than all of us, you know, but still for a person in his caliber, it's not really good. This kind of hastiness and quickness and jumpiness is not going to allow him to lead the people appropriately. He's going to be shooting from his hip. Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. He cannot be a leader. I know somebody who's a tremendous Talmid Chacham, but he's very quick like this, and nothing ever happens. Tremendous. I wish I knew a quarter of what he knows. But he's very quick. Yeah, go do this. Yeah, you do it. Go. Nothing really happens. Nothing really happens. Then we go to Shimon and Levi. They are next. So if not Reuven, so they have Shimon and Levi. And they also lost the chance for leadership and and leading the people and so on and so forth. And for a different reason. If Reuven lost it and he fell because he was quick, which told him he's too jumpy, he's not a deep thinker, Shimon and Levi, by them executing all the people of Shechem, prove that after they establish a certain idea in the head, it is very hard for them to break this idea and to leave it alone. A person that cannot change cannot lead. Sometimes, including me, criticize leaders about being a right wing and then giving back territories and so on and so forth. So from a lower level perspective, I got a point. But maybe they saw something that I didn't see. Maybe being all the way up and assuming that their decision was not based on them not going to jail or not being persecuted by whoever, this, that, and the other one. Assuming. I need to realize that somebody at the top sees things completely different than the way I look at it. Shimon and Levi, once it got into the heads, they were not able to let go of it. That's it. It's set. That's it. They're like a bulldog, a locked jaw, locked to that. You can't let go of it. They can't change. A leader cannot do that. A leader needs to be able to adapt, to change. Situations changes all the time. So it was very difficult for them to say, I made a mistake. The path that I went was wrong. Let's figure out a new way for us to go. And that emotional difficulty really, if you think about it, really has an effect on the behavior of each and every one of us. And it has an effect on your life, on your family, on the mistake. How many times you hear people, when it comes to investment, well, you go to a person and say, listen, buddy, the stock market is not going well, or Bitcoin is not going well. Take your money out. No, you already lost. But you lost from your profits. Even if you lost from your money, take the money out, scrap by your half. No, you set in your ways. Adapt, change. That's why we said always diverse your portfolio, as it says in the Gemara. Why? Because you have the ability to change. You're not set into one thing. You don't create a tunnel vision. You see the big picture. That's what a leader needs to do. So we already know that a leader should be able to say, I'm sorry, I meant wrong. This is not working out. Let's try to figure it out. A leader should not be hasty. He should be very well calculated. He should not be a coward. Don't confuse hastiness with braveness. But you should be very calculated. The destiny of all of the people is on your shoulders. Let's go to war. Meanwhile, you're killing thousands of your soldiers, of your children, of the future of your nation. This is not the way to go. Sit down. Let's talk. Let's think about it. Let's see what we're doing. There are nations, for them, it's like in Hebrew, not Hebrew, it's actually in Arabic, but in Israel we call it Alehu, woo, like a whole bunch of hoodlums. Not even thinking, where are we going with this? What are we doing with this? Maybe we were wrong. This kind of people will never be leaders. They'll always destroy, but the leaders they will not be. But then we have Yehuda. Yehuda, which is the fourth of the brothers, he got the leadership role. And he got the leadership role, he became a king, and we need to know, we're talking about here the greatest of the people, of our nations, people who are above and beyond each and all of us, even if we stand on each other's shoulders. And these are the people that really shaped the character of the Jewish, not each and every one of us, but the Jewish people throughout the generations. And when we say criticism of them, we have to, of course, be very, very careful and gentle with them. But we need to understand that those examples were given to us to learn, not to make ourselves feel better. They came to teach us something. But if you're going to look at the will of Yaakov, you need to understand that these are people that we want to be in our society. People, you want people who are, they think twice about everything. They're very settled down. And together with that, they're willing to say, I'm sorry. They don't fall in love too much with their idea. Today in politics, all over the world, come politician, he has an agenda and he runs with it, even if it means the destruction of his country. They'll run with the idea, just not to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I want to see the leader will come and say, you know what, we made a mistake with all this crazy immigration stuff here. We need to put an end to it because we are falling apart. We made a mistake. We should change it. I'm going to tell you, the person who will do that will win his presidency again, or win a presidency. There's nothing wrong to say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I meant well. It fell short. So, or to say, listen, explain to me, I want to hear what you have to say. But that's something that I said to you, when there is hatred, when you hate one another, whether it's Republicans hate liberals, liberals hate Republican, Likud in Israel hates this one, and when we have this, it becomes personal. It's not to serve the people. We're using the people as a tool, as a toy to serve our purposes. And therefore we cannot, and why we can serve the people well? Because we cannot hear maybe this guy has a point. That's why moderates are very important to have. So, to say I'm sorry, or to say it's hard for me, I made a mistake, that is exactly the muscle in which to need to work on it. When you work on muscles in the gym, you gotta take the muscles that it's hard for you to work, not it's easy for you to work. But in a society, sometimes the destiny of a society is determined based on who is the leader. And that's why he needs to have a certain DNA within him to be able to think and to remember that to do everything, and he needs to be able to balance what's good in him together with what he needs to work on, because nobody is perfect. And that is for the sake of the whole organization, whether it's your family cell, whether it's a company you work in, or a country if you run it. So the message of this parasha is really there, and according to the Zohar, in the fact that Yaakov was able to reach the highest level, specifically in Egypt, that represents the lowest spiritual place that a person can fall through, and to the break of the heart that sometimes it's so low also, And this is the secret of life and the secret of Sefer Bereshit, which deals with people, deals with their mistakes, and deals how through the Torah is to show us that every time you fail, every time you fall, is a chance for you to elevate yourself from where you are and to become better than you were before you fall. By seeing the future, by understanding that we could create a new future for ourselves that we didn't even realize could happen because we were set in our ways. And we take the stones of the rebel of the past and we build a better future to all of us. But we need not only leaders to do it for us, to lead us, we also need to lead ourselves to this kind of place. So, for that, I can tell you Shabbat Shalom. And if you have questions, you can reach us at rabbigaon@gmail.com or at Yeshiva Etzion on Instagram, YouTube, and all the other places.